Welcome everyone. Today we have our another new episode and we will discuss on cybersecurity. We have our fourth famous speaker, Professor David Smith. Professor David Smith, what you want to discuss about cybersecurity? I know you are very expert for technology and technological aspects. Country like Bangladesh, we are also struggling a lot for cybersecurity. We finished a summit with the ICT Ministry recently, and what's your view and how we can work on this topic, cybersecurity, Mr. David Smith?
Cherise, thank you so much for the invite today. I hope we have some others join us online as well. The cybersecurity market is a very necessary market today because, as we know, the digital economy is growing and growing very fast. You've heard me say on many of your broadcasts that today the world is almost everything has become digital, and everything that's digital has become connected, which makes cybersecurity and digital crimes grow with it. Uh, the soaring numbers of both the online attacks, the data center type of attacks, and the mobile attacks and interactions are creating millions and millions of attack opportunities every minute. And many lead to data breaches and compromises that threaten people and businesses. Um, at the current growth rate, damages from the cyber attacks will amount to about $11 trillion annually by 2025. Let me say that again, $11 trillion annually in damages from cybersecurity attacks by 2025. And that is really kind of going and becoming very critical as you take there. Uh, we also have seen that because of the pandemic, there was a dramatic surge in these types of numbers that we see out there. And we're seeing new ways of addressing it, and they're beginning to affect others. One of the big impacts of this was from the pandemic. And during the pandemic, the number of cybersecurity incidents went up hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of percentages there. And it really is an awakening for people there. And we also see that in times of conflict, like what we've seen with the Russia uh, invasion of Ukraine and the Middle East things now, that uh, cyber crimes and cybersecurity is becoming even more important. The financial industry is one of the biggest uh, targets as you look at that because of the money, and healthcare comes right after that, and beginning to be critical infrastructure and other elements on there. The the future though is interesting. So in the United States, the global uh, security market size in 2022 was $2.2 billion of just the security market on it, and a compound annual growth rate of about 13%. And it really is taking off at this rate because of the emergence of smart devices, the deployment of the cloud, the deployment of the Internet of Things. Um, and really, if you begin to look at it, it's also because of the pandemic, we tended to move and do much more online, from working at home to buying everything online. And that has uh, really impacted. During the early days of the pandemic, most companies were not, most companies, most schools were not uh, really have the systems in place for work at home, learn at home. And so that is one which is going. The Forbes, in one of their recent studies, actually said that they believe that the uh, cybersecurity market for not just the cybersecurity tools, but the cybersecurity services as well is a $2 trillion marketplace this year and will be growing to a $12 trillion marketplace during the next decade. And these are numbers from McKinsey of where they will be going and what they will be doing. And uh, one of the more recent trends is that more and more attacks are targeting small companies now too, because they do not have the human capital and the expertise to do it. For example, here in Texas where I live, because of one of these cybersecurity attacks, one of the steel companies not far from us a couple of years ago was forced into bankruptcy after a ransomware attack destroyed all their systems. And they did not have any backups, they did not have anything to recover from. And it bankrupts the company and they went out of business. So you see that type of opportunities hurting companies and hurting nations going there. Uh, the There's also an impetus by uh, trying to put laws in place and regulations in place uh, to begin to move this into areas where the companies can do more. They can uh, have to comply with it to stay in a business. Uh, the the companies that do work with the U.S. Department of Defense have to meet some fairly rigorous cybersecurity rules now to be able to even work there. Now, there are some trends to watch out for the rest of this year and early next year. Uh, with the growth of artificial intelligence and particularly generative artificial intelligence, we're, we're going to see that the bad guys are using that to build more sophisticated and smart AI powered attacks. This can be from doing social engineering, creating deep fakes with social engineering, automating malware that intelligently adapts and tries to evade detection. There is an intense shortages of cybersecurity trained people. And for education, this is a huge opportunity, both for traditional education and the more intensive boot camps, the online education to train cybersecurity professionals. And there is going to be a tremendous increase in salaries in that area. Uh, some organizations are moving more of their data into the cloud because they believe that the security offered by the cloud and the number of people in the different clouds makes their data more secure. We're still seeing attacks there, so that should be going on. There is a approach now in cybersecurity that I believe is a very good approach, and it's one that we need to take and understand. And it's called a zero trust security. Zero trust security assumes that all users, devices, applications are untrusted until they're proven otherwise. And so it's the old concept was whitelisted applications, blacklisted applications. This approach says that any new app, any new device, any new user is automatically untrusted until you can verify those. And that is one which is fundamentally changing uh, what is happening and what can be done. Uh, we've also, on your program, Sharif, we've talked a fair amount about quantum computing and quantum cryptography. And quantum cryptography is a technology that can create very complex encryption keys. But quantum computing can also very rapidly decode uh, encryption keys that if they are not quantum safe. And there's a lot of work for the post quantum age to put quantum resistant cybersecurity in place. And that is something that every company, every nation, uh, every government should be tracking right now is what to do in the post quantum encryption age. Ransomware attacks are increasing, and we will see ransomware attacks continue to increase. At the start of the pandemic, ransomware attacks increased over 600%. So it's one that's there. I talked about regulatory compliance. Uh, it is rapidly growing, not just pure cybersecurity, but privacy. Uh, uh, the ability to do those is becoming not only local, company, regional, but global too, with things like GPR, GDPR, and others. Cyber insurance was really popular for a while. It's increasingly difficult to get cyber security, and we will see that happen even more. Uh, and so that is really happening in a very, very important area as you look at that. Um, MIT, though, did recently a really interesting uh, publication, and it looked at some of the other anticipated things. And the one of the points it made in there is that you're beginning to see the use of AI to bypass some of the things which have been used uh, in business email uh, by using fraud. There's increasing approaches with machine learning trying to use it to bypass multi-factor authentication. Um, and if you're not using multi-factor authentication on many of your transactions today, you should. Yes, it is not easy to enter your username, use your password, and then wait for multi-factor authentication to happen. But it's really necessary today, and you should be doing that. There's also an approach today gaining speed called KYC, which is Know Your Customer ID verification. This is something going over. You see major state actors, particularly like North Korea, Iran, China, Russia, and others. Uh, they are increasing their targeting of, of targets. One of the recent government assessments I've seen out of the EU has said that North Korea is probably the largest geographical area of them targeting the cybersecurity interests in the EU, with a number of breaches, a number of ransomware attacks, and other things being able to be traced back to uh, North Korea. And you see it happening all the time. I will tell you that at the start of the Russia-Ukraine war, and now with the start of the war in the Middle East, the number of cyber attacks, the number of people probing the network has dramatically increased. Just on my system here, I've gone from about 600 probes per day to a little bit over 3,000 probes hitting my system every day that my software and my firewalls and things are blocking. So this is not just something you see targeting governments, not just something you see targeting large institutions, but individual as well. This most recent round of attacks have increasingly targeted universities and schools. They believe that a lot of the advanced work is being done in those areas, and they're being targeted. They also see that it's easy to go in and create sympathetic users there once they breach the system. Uh, and that is something that those institutions really need to look at. We're seeing organizing or organized crime beginning to increasingly use the cloud as a way to distribute uh, what they are doing, and using the fact that on a cloud environment you have multiple hops as a way to help uh, hide and shelter uh, what you're doing. One of the other very, very interesting trends now is you're seeing the service providers, and you're seeing cybersecurity as a service now becoming really popular. Uh, if I just look in North America, uh, Canada, United States, or Mexico, uh, there's over 10,000 cybersecurity companies that are at the mid-size and larger. Uh, Unfortunately, what you see there is none of them can do everything. So as you're working in this area and beginning to do things, it's increasingly important to understand that you have to take an approach where you have to build the plan to do it. At my company, we use about 10 different products uh, to help secure our systems. And that is probably going to be supplemented by some others as we increasingly move more into edge of cloud processing, edge of cloud sensors. Uh, the growth towards autonomous driving is going to really push up the uh, requirements more for advanced cybersecurity too, because those vehicles can be cyber hacked and taken over and cause problems, cause accidents, and other things like that. Um, so it's a very, very complex field, Sharif, going forward. I mean, I think I've gone about 20 minutes in this first introduction. Sorry I went so long. Let me go back to you and see if there's anything you would explicitly like me to focus on.
Thank you, Professor David Smith. Can you give us some specific guideline for our youth community, how they can develop their careers in this industry, cybersecurity industry? Especially, we have many entrepreneurs, how they can develop different startup for cybersecurity.
Okay. There's a lot of different way approaches out there, and there's a lot of different ideas that can go into cybersecurity. One of the first things is become security specialist, the malware analyst, a forensics expert, an information assurance engineer, uh, are all areas where there's a lot of opportunities, both for individuals and for startup companies, particularly in the areas that you will see there. Uh, One of the new positions at many companies is the Chief Information Security Officer, the CISO, and that is happening all over. Uh, the other areas that we're seeing really are very intense as you're looking at their opportunities. I would say one of the things your startup should do is really take advantage of the open source software out there. You know, there are penetration companies and a lot of which is going to be in high demand. Uh, which is one. There's a lot of best practices out. If you do internet searches on the best practices in cybersecurity, you will get thousands and thousands of hits. Uh, there's a lot of areas where you can look at what are the best cybersecurity startups. A quick scan of that will give you a number of ideas too. The other thing that I think is very interesting is there is now a cybersecurity maturity model. And the cybersecurity maturity model should be a guidepost to young entrepreneurs and others on how to look at what is there. You can go and look at explicits. In the United States, there's an organization called the National Standards Institute here. And NIST has issued a common security framework. And the NIST Common Security Framework is really a great framework for both companies to follow, individuals to follow, uh, and really how to push that forward. Uh, there are so many use cases out there for uh, startup business ideas in cybersecurity. Um, Probably an area that is one that could grow to a large size the quickest in cybersecurity is the cybersecurity hardware business. Um, there are so many different approaches now, point sources, broad ones, very, very narrow ones where cybersecurity hardware can do a lot. I mean, for example, Sharif, uh, I do not know of any company right now who are making cybersecurity tools targeted for the cars on the road. And cars on the road can be very vulnerable because almost all of them are digital now, and they're increasingly having connectivity. They're on the internet or they're broadcasting to private networks. So a startup dealing with the transportation industry would be a great one. Uh, if I look globally, particularly in the developing nations, Sharif, uh, there should be an emphasis on protecting the critical infrastructure. And that's a great opportunity for local entrepreneurs, is because the environment, the companies, what the ecosystem there and what the culture is. Uh, and that's a great opportunity. I do want to take one moment though and pull back. The greatest cybersecurity threat to most companies is the people inside the company. They get lax. I've walked down offices and I see passwords written on pieces of paper. At the airport, I see a password written on the back of a notebook computer that people are using. You see people calling and saying things like, hang on one second, we're having heavy weather here and that's a flash flood warning. Uh, you see people being compromised too easy. I get emails every day that says you're not going to be able to use your email if you don't click here to change your password. Well, I'm the administrator of my email accounts, and I know that's not true. But so many people get caught by that, which has you give away your usernames and passwords. And then in your email, a bad guy can find out so much more. The other one that is becoming very popular today is people reaching out to you by phone or by email and saying, I'm your technical support. We've detected a problem on your computer system. Can you give me this information? I'm with your bank. I'm with your credit card company. There's a problem. I need to verify your information. What is your account number? What is this? you should never do that with someone calling you. If you want to go and verify it, call the number you have on your credit card. Call that and verify. Most organizations would never call you and ask you for information like that because it violates the basic principles of cybersecurity, and it makes them as vulnerable as you are, because if they can compromise your account, many instances they can use that to compromise other accounts too at other organizations and deeper within their own organization. Um, we talk during many of the broadcasts, Sharif, about how important education is. Cybersecurity is actually not only not different, but it's more important to stay up. The new threats, the new actors, the new advances in software, the new advances in hardware, and regulatory compliance areas is increasing probably faster than almost any other area. And so, education, continuous learning, lifetime learning is going to be very important in this area. Also, we're beginning to see more cooperation in place. There are now consortia, there's other groups coming together to pull and share information. Uh, the statistic that I find amazing is that if you look at the studies, uh, the study is over 80% of the organizations that are breached, which have a cybersecurity attack, even though it's required by law, they do not disclose that. They do not let others know that they have been attacked because it could affect their profitability. It could affect their market holdings. It could affect their shareholders. And so a lot of people just ignore it. And the more you ignore it, it makes it harder to defend. One other thing in this area, Sharif, is particularly because of the supply chain and the way companies are today, just securing your company is not enough. You have to look at how to supply the people you partner with, who you buy this stuff for, because many of those have digital connections into the heart of your enterprise, into the heart of your company, into the heart of your government, and those have to be secured as well. So, Sharif, it's a big problem. It's a complex problem, but you can see that there's just tons and tons of opportunities for the entrepreneurs that you were talking about, for educational institutions, including private ones like boot camps and others, to be able to go and uh, not only help, but create a very sizable market for themselves. So, Dr. Sharif, I hope this helps answer.
Thank you. Excellent. Professor David
Starting
Smith,
to get
what's your
other
closing remarks
areas.
for today's session? Yes.
I don't. Go ahead.
Professor David Smith, what's your closing remarks for today's session?
Um, the overall business opportunities or this is tremendous. Uh, as I said, McKinsey in a report and Forbes in another report said that the damage from cyber attacks is going to be about 10 and a half, $11 trillion annually by 2025. So a lot of damage out there, and it's across all parts of it. There was a survey last year that said uh, 80% of all these companies saw that the volumes of they're seeing as cyber attacks are doubling or tripling, and they're seeing things they have not seen earlier. Current commercial systems do not fully meet customers' demands, and you need to look at how to use a multiple approach of that to solve your needs. And it's really a time where innovation has to become very important in the cybersecurity area. The The cybersecurity is made up of things like data protection, governance, email security, cloud, network security, identity, privacy, access management, consulting around the areas, web security, Internet of Things, endpoint application, operations management, reporting, and the newest trend towards cybersecurity as a service. Um, there is a dramatic shortage again of people, and so developing that is going to be very important for anyone to do it. Uh, the regulatory impact is going to be huge. I saw a recent statistic that if you look at globally, uh, that there are over 15,000 bills or resolutions currently before governmental bodies dealing with cybersecurity. And that is just going to continue to go, and keeping up with that is going to be very, very important. There's best practices, there's models out there, there's frameworks that you can use, but you have to be diligent. And if you are not diligent with cybersecurity, it's going to happen. There's a great quote uh, that says, uh, if you think you're not being targeted, then you've already been targeted and compromised. And it's not if you're going to have a cybersecurity attack. It's not if you're going to have things where you have information compromised. It's that it's just when. Uh, everyone's going to have it, and everyone's going to begin to see it. So you have to really look at how to ride to do that, put in place, look at the trends. This is one where you cannot not be diligent. Uh, the automation, particularly the growth of artificial intelligence and machine learning, is going to produce better tools to protect your cybersecurity. But it's also going to produce better cybersecurity attacks to compromise your space. So it's a cat and mouse game there. Uh, and that's really kind of where we see. And the fact that this can put companies out of business, this can damage nations, this can damage regions, this can uh, damage critical infrastructure, bring power offline, take water offline, and things, makes it important for us all to consider the impacts around us and even the impacts at home. Like I said, on my home router, I am getting thousands of port scans a day that are looking to see if I can be compromised. And that's me as an individual at home, not my company side. The company side's even worse. So, Chief, I think that is probably some of my concluding remarks on this. Cybersecurity is important. Too many people think it cannot happen to me. And the reality is it's happening to everyone. And that is an attitude that has to change because you are going to be attacked. You are being attacked now. And hopefully your systems you're using are taking care of most of them. But they're becoming increasingly sensitive. Again, artificial intelligence is good and bad here. It helps us defend, it also helps them attack. So again, remember today, almost everything's digital and almost everything is connected. And we rely on that digital connected devices and information. And that makes it susceptible to cybercrime and why cybersecurity is important. So Sharif, I think that's probably my closing remarks.
Thank you. Thank you, Professor David Smith. It's excellent discussions. It will be helpful for our community, and definitely we're going to discuss how we can go for cybersecurity, digitalization, especially for banking industries, and these things. Definitely, your organization can help our communities. Thank you. Bye bye, and take care.
Thank you.